Welcome to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I'm Tim Durling. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. My scenery looks a little different in the background. You'll be seeing this a few months after it was filmed. It was filmed in the summertime when we were on vacation in Port Felix, Nova Scotia, rented a cabin. Excellent spot, by the way. So I thought while I was down here I'd do a little filming. So this one's going to be on my Van Halen cassette collection. I did a Van Halen cassette collection episode within the first year of Tim's Vinyl Confessions. Since then I've gotten more, and I think this is more or less complete without going into side projects and guest appearances and things like that. So I thought it was time to do another one maybe. Staying hydrated. So we'll start off with one of very few bootlegs that I still have. I don't bother too much with bootlegs, but this is a fun concert to put on and listen to once in a while. Just because it says in concert live, and down at the bottom of the track listing it says California 1977. I think this is at the Pasadena Civic Center, but I could be wrong about that. Van Halen historians can back me up on this one, or can correct me on this one. Picked this one up quite a few years ago, and the insert is actually quite well done. I think it was just done on what appears to be like a Polaroid, but it's good quality J-card. And it's all songs from the first album with the exception of Somebody Get Me a Doctor, which obviously they'd had songs written before the albums actually came out. So that's the first thing I'm going to show you. Now we'll get in with the actual albums properly. Of course, the classic debut Van Halen album. What you're seeing here is a Canadian issue from Columbia House. Originally released in 1978, of course. And clear cassette. That's another sign that it's a newer issue. Of course, albums like this, 10 million selling plus albums, been reissued countless times. There's the inner sleeve. This, of course, the only one where David Lee Roth is just listed as David Roth. Has more of a ring to it with the Lee in there, for sure. Most of these ones you're going to see are Canadian, actually. So the second Van Halen album, 1979, Van Halen 2. This is a Canadian issue. And this one, for some reason, side 1 and side 2 are reversed. So I didn't know until I got the CD, because I got the cassette first. And the record came in third. But yeah, side 1 and side 2 are reversed on this. Every once in a while they would do that. There's no liner notes for this inside of this one. Fairly sparse, like a lot of older cassettes were. But that's how they were able to sell them cheaper, I guess. The oldest issue cassette that I have in this collection is also a Canadian issue. Women and Children First from 1980, and I'd hazard a guess as to say this particular issue is from 1980, just the way that this looks. Especially the typewritten font, which I love. And this is what the cassette itself looks like. Writing on it is a little faded, so I'll hold it way, way up for you. My personal favorite of the first 6 Van Halen albums, of the original David Lee Roth era albums, is this one. My good friend Matt disagrees with me on it. He doesn't understand why I love it so much. He thinks it's really dark. I just love Fair Warning so much. And this is a Canadian copy of that. 1981. A lot of these old Van Halen ones, with the exception of Women and Children First, they all kind of look the same, the issues that I have of them. One of the first older Van Halen albums I bought was this one. Diver Down from 1982. This is the first time that it takes up the entire front of the cover, although I have seen an issue that looks like this, where it's just a square cover with the band name and title. So, you know, cassettes just got reissued and reissued and reissued. But this, too, is a Canadian version. And this one actually has a little bit inside of it. Love this picture of the group on stage. Another photo of the band, and a little tiny bit of liner notes. Now, I didn't start buying Van Halen albums until 1988, so I was a little bit late to the, buying them, but went back and rediscovered everything. And the first one I bought was this. I bought it from my cousin. Now, this isn't the same issue, but it looks about the same. 1984. Of course, this was an enormous album for them. And this is a Canadian reissue. All cassettes that came out in Canada that were on Warner Brothers, Elektra, Atlantic, which is the WEA, or WEA, and associated labels like at the time Geffen and Island and things like that. All of the cassettes that came out had a photo in the middle here of whoever it was, which is interesting. It was an interesting choice they made for a couple of years. I didn't notice it till I saw quite a few of them that realized this wasn't just a coincidence. This is a later issue because it's a clear cassette. Very little in it for credits. Next up, of course, we have the debut Sammy Hagar Van Halen album, 5150. This is also a Canadian issue. We're just about reaching the point where Canada and US issues would look about the same for the albums that came out, but I do know that the American version of 5150, it has the same font on it and everything, but it's white on the side with red lettering. This is a slightly older issue. It's got gold printing on it, not just white printing. So this could be from '86. It was reissued a couple of times or a couple different locations. For the first time inside of a cassette, the actual lyrics are printed. And something that they continued with the next album, they put the song lyrics in out of order, and I don't know why they do that. It's kind of aggravating. First Van Halen album I bought new when it first came out in late spring, I guess, 1988, OU 812. This is a Canadian issue. And like 5150, the songs are listed out of order. For some reason, they made the decision to list them in alphabetical order, which makes no sense at all. Fortunately, on the cassette itself, they are listed in the proper order. And even the lyrics are printed alphabetically. Now, I mentioned that Fair Warning was my favorite of the original 6 albums. My favorite Van Halen album, period, is this, For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, 1991. For me, and I think anybody that's got a favorite album, there's not one wasted second on this album. I just love it. And I could play it inside my head at a moment's notice and know every note, every drum fill, every ad-lib. Not that I could do it, but I know where it is. So anyway, this is a Canadian issue on Warner Brothers. It's actually a Columbia House issue. Clear cassette. Would be really thrilled if this lineup would get back together one more time and do something, a tour, end on a positive note. Lots of cool pictures inside of this. This is the first time when Eddie had his own, the Wolfgang guitars, that shape. I remember finding it strange when it first came out. It looked more like a Telecaster than something that, for hard rock, but it's hard rock when Eddie plays through it, for sure. The next thing to come out is something I don't have too many of, is a 2 cassette, like an album that came out that they had to put it on 2 cassettes. Back in the vinyl era, a lot of times double albums would still just fit on 1 cassette, 1 8-track, and oftentimes 1 CD. They might have to leave a track or 2 off. But in 1993, Van Halen put out the very first live album, Right Here, Right Now. And it fit on 2 CDs. They had to put it on 2 CDs, and they even had to put it on 2 cassettes. So cassette 1 has the standard cover on it, and this is a Canadian issue. Song titles are listed there. That's what the cassette looked like. So, it's mostly photos. And a little bit of credits here, not much. So yeah, it would have come in stores, sort of probably taped or stuck together, or with an elastic on them or something to that effect. This is tape 2, and the front cover has all of the songs on both cassettes listed. This is what the back cover of the CD looked like. I don't believe that this ever came out on vinyl. At least I've never seen it. So that's the cassette there. And more band photos. Butterfingers here today. Yeah, more band photos and more extensive credits. All of this would have been inside the CD set. Next, we have the final full album that they did with Hagar, Balance. This is a Canadian version from 1995. Now this one, just slightly out of order from the CD and the record. The side 2 starts off with the song Aftershock, and then the instrumental strung out, and then Not Enough. Aftershock normally would come after Not Enough. I'm not sure why they did that, unless they just didn't want to start off side 2 with an instrumental into a ballad. I don't know. So, get all the lyrics here. And I had a Balance tour shirt which had those 4 pictures on them. It's the one and only time I was able to see Van Halen in concert in Old Orchard Beach. Great show. Had no idea that they were less than a year from breaking up. The next thing to come out was surrounding a very, very controversial time for the band, but it's a good single disc collection. So I'll give all full props to the Best of Van Halen Volume 1. There never was a Volume 2, at least not so far. Hasn't been enough new music to follow it up, although Best of Both Worlds is a good compilation. So this is a Canadian issue on Warner Brothers. And basically has all of the albums and all of the songs on each of the albums and a little bit of credits. I've only got one more thing to show you here, and a notorious album in Van Halen fandom. Well, I won't even give you my opinion on it, because I know at least one co-host of this show that thinks this is the best Van Halen album. It's Van Halen 3. This is my one US copy that I've got, still on Warner Brothers. This is the Gary Cherone album. I will say I think there are some fine, fine songs on this. So having the CD, it's got all the same stuff in it, pretty much. And all of the lyrics. So there you go. That's the, I think, the complete Van Halen cassette collection. If they didn't put Different Kind of Truth or their Tokyo album or Best of Both Worlds out in cassette. So I think that's all there's probably ever going to be, unless I find some really old, older pressings of them, pick those up just because they look so different. So thanks for watching this edition of Tim's Vinyl Confessions.